Her breathing got heavier as she felt Carlos's rough, muscular hands move down her stomach, now slippery with tears and sweat. His fingers tenderly nudged the skin above the waistband of his shorts, as if preparing to invade the latex territory. He would brave it, decided. As he moved down his slick, oily hip, he became yet more hot and inflamed. He would keep going. He had to. Loretta was almost dripping with anticipation. Carlos was almost at breaking point. To peel or to scratch? The latter would only bring temporary yet painful relief, but his hands were red and his skin was burning. He began to roll down the latex waistband from Loretta's hips, much like a child excitedly peels stickers from a plastic backing before pressing it on the nearest surface. Exactly like that. Don't! Oh, God! Panted Loretta, her miasma staining the air with the taint of non-kosher ungulate, accented with sour fruit and vinegar. The arrow played about Carlos's shoulders like the annual swarms of mosquitoes and black fly on the Canadian prairies, bringing a bright patina of mosaic bloodwork to the outermost layers of his epidermis as he flushed with exasperated glee. He pawed ineffectually at the edging of Loretta's clothing as his hands began to burn at each contact. Just stop before you hurt yourself, brayed the rampant sleep therapist, forcing her quarry back into his chair as he did so. With a series of spasmodic gestures, she shed the shorts, a fragile puffin freeing itself of a crude oil sarcophagus in a lukewarm tub of mild detergents, and she stepped, shivering, into the light. What had initially appeared to be Carlos's arousal manifesting itself in his complexion began to subside as his allergen was removed from the equation. It was time to get back to business. Loretta undid Carlos's belt buckle with the ease born of many decades of practice, and tugged his dingy trousers down. His shorts, threadbare to the point of translucence and marked all over with an array of questionable blemishes, soon followed. She watched with wonder as the receding flush from his face seemed to migrate and re-manifest itself instantly in his throbbing slab of sex, and as she slithered down his body as gracefully as a droplet of water makes its way down the firm breast of a nubile young teenager as she washes herself in the shower. His mighty man-stick rose above her, casting a shadow across her face like Nelson's column on the visage of an unassuming Japanese tourist, his monument to her. It was a formidable sight indeed. The length and girth of the item were not dissimilar to that of a particularly delicious-looking, soft, but temptingly crusty baguette, and the glands glistened as a single drop of viscous fluid seeped from the end. A single vein beat a sly tattoo as it wended its way down the glossy shaft. The sight of it intimidated, yet somehow encouraged her, and she nuzzled his furry testicles like an inquisitive kitten as he shivered with great spasms of pleasure. Parting her still-stained red lips, she began to salivate. Slowly but surely she worked the pork-tainted lubricant down Carlos's shaft. He could not help but let out a hoarse, broken shriek of satisfaction, watching as she continued to work silently along the frigid stem of his icy love language. By all means, it was not a sight that Carlos was new to, but even so, the gentle, rhythmic bobbing of Loretta's silken head took away what little breath he had. At least, she took the last of the breath that had not been previously taken away by years of furious cigar smoking. It made his tension rise further, and with even more vigilance than before, and he sensed that Loretta knew. She ploughed in spite of her now slightly burning throat, in the same vein as a very determined farmer ploughs his crops during a season of inappropriate and persistent weather conditions. The farmer would make a full harvest, Loretta decided. She would get the cream of the crop indeed. As she pushed her face into his furry love triangle, she felt the dense sinewy tissue writhing against the pad of her tongue. His hips, now swinging to a contrapuntal melody to the symphony of saliva she was slathering along his conductor's baton, began to push harder into the ceiling of her auditorium. The sweet melodies of their lovemaking resonated through her cranium as she felt the crescendo of her concerto performance approaching. Carlos's panting began to shape a polyrhythm around her steady nod, and as he thrust deeper into her windpipe, she spluttered phlegm and goblets of Carlos's caked-on love cheese across his lap, like an aging saxophonist, wheezing his last breath in the gutter behind the jazz club where he gave his all every single night, ejects fragments of soft tissue as emphysema finally ends his life. Spiraling goblets of sputum leaked from what felt like every hole in her face as tears streamed down her cheeks. "Oh, fuck," moaned Carlos. "I'm going to—" Loretta ceased her motion and gripped him between her incisors. "Do it, and I bite. Hard." As her words dawned on him, it took every last iota of Carlos's minimal self-control to stop himself spewing vast torrents of man's milk all over Loretta's startled features, to mingle with the ketchup still inexplicably caught at the centre of her glittering mouth, in a delicious explosion of sex and sauce and sweat. No, he reminded himself as he pulled him back from the edge of oblivion. Decadence or somnolence. It was difficult to tell sometimes. Now was not the time. Instead, he slipped his hands around her ample waist, still feeling the vague burn of latex from the faint vestiges of the skin-tight shorts still present on her skin, and hoisted her to eye level. He leaned in, and his tongue slowly penetrated her primary set of labia with the uncertain darting motion of a meerkat scurrying to its burrow in order to avoid the deadly pursuit of a wildcat. But Loretta was his only predator. With one swift motion, she thrust her tongue deep into his open mouth, exploring it with a curious certainty of ownership. Oh yes, she was the alpha of the pair, as she probed his facial orifice with her slick lingual phallus. She began to gyrate against him, frotting his grandiose sex cannon with the smooth motion of a carpenter's hand, gently guiding a sheet of micron-grade sandpaper over the soft contours of a distressed pie. The effect was quite remarkable. Her breath came in short, asthmatic gasps, and her sex moistened with incredible speed, as though she were a self-saucing pudding placed in a hot oven. It was time. Carlos's soft, croaky purrs were muffled by Loretta's energetic tongue in and around his talk hole. Before he knew what was happening, she impaled herself on him like a helpless Viking upon his mighty Saxon sword. Still shackled in the antique chair, Carlos could do nothing but thrust his way to victory, with all the determination of door-to-door religious converters. He fought hard and fast in the battle, persistent in his efforts to satisfy Loretta, as though she were the manager of a used car dealership and he was close to breaking record sales. And that he was. She was squelching with the slick, creamy ooze of satisfaction. The final deal was close to being signed. He could feel it too, growing more and more tense with both anxiety and excitement. Loretta's girlish squeals ceased as soon as she saw Carlos's head low limply aside. She had seen this before. First cataplexy, then unconsciousness. She climbed off and breathed in the sad stench of semen mingled with disappointment. Inorgasmia, like Carlos's seed, was a bitter pill to swallow.